have a very exciting presentation for you. So, unfortunately, Mike can't be here right now. He'll be joining us soon, but we are going to take you on a quick journey. So, we are going to take a look at our dome, and we're going to introduce you to the first few minutes of one of our new shows. I hope you're all ready. What you're about to see. Space, the final frontier. My name is Charissa, your captain, and this is Expedition Solar System. Very, very wonderful. I can hear your applause from home. That's great. We're so excited to have you all here in the Buhl Planetarium today. Cadets, do you have the right stuff to become an astronaut? How many of you have ever wanted to go to space? Well, we are going to take an expedition today, and you may have noticed that we have a friend here with us. This is going to be our science officer today, and I think he's all charged up and ready to go. He has been specially programmed with bravery, truthfulness, and loyalty to humanity. Cadets, I'd like you to meet my trusty sidekick, Quasi the Robot.
Where am I? Oh, I'm at eLIPS. Oh, I heard about this. This is going to be so much fun. Hey, everybody. How you doing? Hey, Captain.
Hi, Quasi. Everyone's waving hello. I don't know if you can see them on the screen.
Yeah, hi, everybody. My name's Quasi. Quasi the Robot.
You know, this little robot has been dreaming about going to space for a long time.
You said it, Captain. When I grow up, I want to be an astronaut. I'm still not old enough for space camp, but today's my chance to show the folks at NASA that I've got the right stuff. Hey, do you like to look at the stars?
I do. I think our friends here do too.
Yeah. You know, I wish we could go to space right now.
Oh, well, Quasi, you're in luck. Lots of robots have been to space, and you know what? Today, it's your turn.
What? That's awesome! My first space mission. Just imagine the cool planets we'll visit and the cool robots we're going to meet. Oh, boy. But wait a minute, Captain. How are we going to get there?
Oh, well, you're in luck, Quasi. We are in a planetarium, a theater of the stars. All we have to do is use our imaginations. We can turn this whole room into a spaceship.
Wow. Cadets, do you have imaginations? Maybe let me know in the chat. I can read it from here with my robot eyes.
I think we got some imaginations out there.
We got some imaginative humanoids. That's awesome. Well, your brain power will make our spaceship go. Put your thinking caps on.
All right, cadets, let's imagine a cool, crisp morning. Imagine a Florida sunrise at Kennedy Space Center. I think it's working. Check it out. Now, imagine a rocket as tall as a skyscraper.
It's working.
Wow, look at that. Reaching 20 stories into the sky. We can see her steaming and ready to go in that historic launch pad. She is the Atlas V, and she's ready for liftoff. This is how robots ride in style to outer space. Let's join Mission Control for a countdown.
9.
Here we go.
8, 7, 6. Come on, cadets, join us.
4.
All of you in
3,
robots
2, 1.
Ignition and liftoff.
Woohoo!
Atlas 5. Go NASA. Go robots. And go Expedition Solar System. Take voice in far out space places with Quasi the Robot.
Space, the final frontier. These are the voyages of me, Quasi the Robot. Well, we've reached Earth orbit. You have great imaginations. Give yourselves a round of applause at home.
Great job, cadets.
You know, Earth is my home. Raise your hand if you're from planet Earth.
I think most of them are racing.
It's like half of you.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, maybe raise your hand if you're from another planet. Or let me know in the chat where you're from. Yeah, welcome visitors to planet Earth.
You know, Earth has all the right stuff to make a good home for us. Liquid water, land to live on, and just the right mix of air for us to breathe.
You said it, Captain. Earth is awesome. It looks like a blue marble. Just look at those oceans and clouds. Wow.
Yeah, and Earth gets by with a little help from our friends too, including our sun. Our sun is just the right size, and it's not too close and not too far away.
Oh, so Earth is not too hot, but it's not too cold.
Yeah, and our sun is a star. So when you go outside and feel the sunshine, you're really feeling star-like. How cool is that? Quasi, let's take a closer look at our sun.
Aye, Captain. Here comes one of my friends. It's the Solar Dynamics Observatory. It's got 4 telescopes specially made to look at
The sun is a white star, but through robot eyes, we can see a rainbow of colors. SDO looks at the sun in lots of wavelengths. Now, wavelengths are kind of like different languages of light. Our eyes only understand one language, but SDO can understand and see a lot more, and it can help translate for us. We can find sunspots and solar flares. Hey, Quasi, let's follow a ray of sunshine and see where it goes.
Destination mapped, Captain. That sunshine is headed to a tree in my backyard.
On screen. Here comes the sun. The leaves are soaking up the sunlight. Quasi, report.
Captain, it's called photosynthesis. The leaves use sunlight to help make new things like oxygen. Raise your hand if you like to breathe. Yeah. Well, the leaves make sugar too. Raise your hand if you like to eat sugar.
I see a lot more hands for that one.
Oh, yeah. Well, the next time you see a tree, say, hey, thanks, tree. Let's all say that together. Hey, thanks, tree.
Hey, thanks, tree.
You know, our sun has a whole day of the week named after it. Which one is it?
Which one do you think it is, cadets?
It's not
Sunday.
Wednesday. No, it's Sunday. And guess what? It's named for the moon. Monday is short for Moon Day.
Hey, you know, speaking of the moon, that's our next stop. Activate the moon zoom.
Aye, Captain. Moon zoom. Engage. Oh, nice soundtrack, Captain. Very dramatic.
Thanks, Quasi. I'm very dramatic.
I'm the captain now. Wow, we got here fast. We reached the moon in just a few seconds. It took me an hour on the parkway last week just to get to Moon Township.
Yeah, I'd say that traffic is no joke. You know, the moon, you can see here, is like a big desert. Quasi, set course for Tycho crater. You know, a space rock crashed into the moon a long time ago and formed this huge crater. But the best part is what happened next. Rubble fell back to the point of impact and it had nowhere to go but up. So these mountains formed in just a few minutes. Wow, it's pretty amazing. We can also see how material sprayed out from Tycho crater, creating white streaks across the surface of the moon.
Oh, hey, Captain, let's meet another friend of mine. We know what Tycho's mountains look like, thanks to this robot. Everyone say hi to LRO.
Hi, LRO.
That's the Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter.
LRO discovered ice at the moon's south pole. That frozen water could come in handy when people return to the moon someday. Hey, Quasi, where was the first moon landing? Can you show us?
Oh, I'm on it. Let's head to the Sea of Tranquility. Let's find a dark spot, an ancient volcanic plain, where we'll find the site of the very first moon landing by Apollo 11.
That was the voice of Neil Armstrong, the first person to walk on the surface of the moon. He left his mark on history and the lunar surface. With no wind to blow them away, his boot prints will last for millions of years. The moon is our closest neighbor in space. You can see it from night to night, nice and big on our sky. Hey, Quasi, can you draw an imaginary line to show us where the moon is going?
Yeah, there you go, Captain. Our moon orbits the Earth. It travels in a big oval around the Earth all the time. Earth's gravity pulls on the moon and keeps it in orbit, just like gravity's keeping you in your seat.
That's right. Beyond the Earth, the moon is the only other place that humans are.
But robots have been all over the place. Come on, I'll show you. Everybody hang on tight wherever you are. Here we go. This is the big picture. We proudly present the solar system. And you know what, Captain? I'd love to take you all more places, but I think I gotta recharge for now.
Yeah, you know what, Quasi, you took us on a great journey today, but I think if our cadets want to see the rest of the show, they're gonna have to do it for themselves.
Okay, I'm gonna initiate sleep mode.
All right, everyone say good night, Quasi.
01.
All right. Quasi, sometimes he doesn't like to go to sleep.
I'm in sleep mode. 01.
Quasi is going to sleep. So that was just his first few minutes of one of our new shows called Expedition Solar System. And I'm going to turn off my microphone because I don't think you all need it. Can you all still hear me all right? Hopefully you're hearing us good. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
So excellent. So that is the first few minutes of our show Expedition Solar System, which is actually the first of 3 shows that we're going to be distributing the contents for. So everything you just saw now, you will potentially be able to do in your own theater and when we get those assets out. So, oh, and look, I think, wow, what timing? Mike, you just missed the
Charissa,
best
how you doing
part.
today?
Oh my gosh.
Oh, hi, everybody. I apologize again that I'm late, but glad to be joining you today for our session on Expedition Solar System. Where I don't want to repeat anything. Where were you at?
Well, I was just telling them how Expedition Solar System is the first of 3 shows that we're going to be distributing. So
Yeah. So we're working with the Institute of Museum and Library Services to put these shows together. And they're all in 3 different states. So the first show pretty much exists and it's ready to go. And it's something that you'd be welcome to take and replicate in your own museum or take pieces of it. If you like a full dome clip here or a slide here, a piece of our script there, and season it to taste and use whatever you like. So it's all about getting the recipe right for you. So we're going to talk a little bit about what's happening in these shows, and then have you help us actually brainstorm and design what we're going to be doing next. So here we go. We've got our Cosmic Cookbook, Earth, the Solar System, and Beyond. And we were inspired by that great Carl Sagan quote, if you wish to make an apple pie from scratch, you must first invent the universe. So our kind of goal here is to create the recipe for whatever kind of planetarium pie you want to make and go from there. Yeah. So again, it's a three show product. The first show is Expedition Solar System. And what we're looking at here is just some of the next generation science content standards that informed our development. So the content in this show, I think you guys stopped where, at the moon before I came in?
we stopped at the solar system.
At the solar system,
yes.
Okay. So we go to the sun and the moon. We travel to different planets and we highlight a specific mission in each one. So we're looking at planetology, solar system structure, but also robots as tools to expand our knowledge. So another theme through the show is Quasi is kind of our ambassador, but we look at the real tools on these satellites orbiting different worlds, whether it's infrared or X-rays or what have you, and how they can expand our vision. And the overall concepts are that we want our students and visitors to be observing, to learning how we make maps, and compare and contrast these worlds to each other. So we also have a pre-show built in here with some scale planets. We had some students, they were having a lot of fun there. I think they were just tired at the end of the day and they're like, oh, I'm on mask. And now we're gonna sit down. But we line them up sometimes with younger students. We'll pull out planets just to look at the names, the shape, the sequence to get all of that out there, and then start replacing them one by one with objects that are scaled. The team volunteers you see here are having fun, I think, deflating our Jupiter there. That's all scaled. Our dome is 50 foot, so we went backwards from there and scaled our solar system.
Yeah, so we have a 6-foot Jupiter, we have a 5-foot Saturn, everything else scales down, and that's always a big dramatic reveal. We bring them out one by one from smallest to largest, and so we always get lots of squeals of delight when we have to force that Jupiter ball. It barely fits through our doors. But that is always a huge reaction, and the kids love kind of standing in the shadow of giant Jupiter, and it really helps put into perspective.
It's the Raiders of the Lost Ark moment in the show where Jupiter comes out. So here we have an example of just one of the full dome clips. With our Cosmic Cookbook, each show has, and I know Charissa will talk about this a little more later, but there's music, there's a lot of homebrew planetarium content created right here. We also have a few full dome clips that we partner with a Pittsburgh animation firm to create. This one is A Journey to Mars for Perseverance. And this was a good example for us of how we could take these pieces and incorporate them into one live show with a storyline, but then use them elsewhere. So this was wonderful for us to do landing parties when Perseverance and Ingenuity first touched down. And then again, when Ingenuity had its first successful flights. And then again, throwing it into our star shows when Perseverance got its first rock samples. It's been nice for us as a standalone piece, as well as incorporating into the storyline of the show, where Quasi is introducing us to all of their friends in the solar system and what missions they're up to.
We did have a question come up in the chat, which is the content available outside the US?
It will be, yes. Yeah, so our plan is to get this uploaded online, and we'll be able to have anyone who is interested have access to it. And we're going to talk a little bit more later down about everything that will be in that package, but yes, it's going to be available to anyone who wants it.
All right, so we'll let Ingenuity fly off into the sunset there. We'll forward again. All right.
Yeah, so actually we'll talk about those assets right now. So each show we have made complete in our own dome, but essentially what we're doing is we're providing the ingredients of a show for you. So you can choose to follow our exact recipe if you want. You can recreate the show exactly how we've created it. We're going to include all of the videos and images for each of the shows. They're all kind of polished, and they'll fit the theme. And you will have the narration scripts as well. So you'll have all of the Hennessy-isms that you could ever wish for. Lots of, I know you didn't. They're very high energy shows. So it's designed to be really engaging in that way. Very positive, very engaging, very interactive. So there's lots of call and response in these shows as well. And lots of puns. And if they're good or bad, you can decide for yourself.
And Quasi the Robot, we have packaged as individual video clips that can pop up all through the dome, and each one is separate. So if you don't care for a particular pun or what have you, you could just drop that out, but still have all the guts of the show. So
great. So while we're lucky enough to have Quasi physically here in our planetarium, we will have videos of Quasi's lines. So you can program it into your show and have Quasi be part of your show as well, if you want something like that. The big thing is all of the full dome clips that will come with this as well. So like Mike said, we've been working with an in-town animation company, Home Run Pictures. They've produced a whole series of full dome clips for us. They're still working on a lot of them, and they are outstanding. You saw the Mars clip. I'm going to show you another one here in just a second, but there will be a good chunk of them for each of the shows. And they're all going to be about 30 seconds to a minute long. So you can use them in these shows, or again, they're your ingredients. So you can use them in any way that you want. You can use them in any show, in any context that you want. They are nice and mostly general, so they can be used for lots of different reasons.
And you can swap in and out your own music. We obviously went with a John Williams theme for this show, except for what you're going to see next. We thought we'd switch it up a bit.
Yes, so that last piece is the music, right? So we're also going to include music for these shows. Again, each one has its very specific theme, and we like to use music a lot in our shows to kind of drive the emotions behind them. So we think it's really important to have cool music. So we're going to be sending along and packaging up music as well. So one of our favorite things is this. This is another one of these cool clips, and this one is going to take you to, and I hope we can hear the audio. There we go. Can everyone hear the audio? Yeah, that's right. This is Psyche, and a metal asteroid. So of course we had to have metal music. So, work at Psyche here. This mission is going to explore this asteroid, which is believed to be the metallic exposed core of a planet from a long time ago. So what is material that was sprayed out, and exposed metals, gold, platinum that are visible on the surface of this asteroid. And of course, the soundtrack. It does make me laugh every time.
And this is not really, it could be a standalone too. So if you're doing a program on asteroids or upcoming missions, or you just want to live it into that, you can do that as well.
So you don't have to use
Yeah.
you don't have to use the music, but it will be very fun. It's, you know, I love watching. Thank you, Brian. I can only see Brian laughing right now. But that is how we are every time I play that. I laugh because it's hilarious. No one expects it. And then we go back into some beautiful orchestral music.
Right. It's like it
You
just
gotta
never
keep 'em-
happened. And the metal band put down their guitars and picked up the violins again and went back into Holston.
You got to keep them
Yes.
guessing. But that's just the first show, Mike.
Yeah, so the second show is in production now, and we're just starting, and this will be available next year. The through line is Quasi the Robot. He was designed by Carnegie Mellon. See some of the color changes on their antennas. They turn back and go blue when they're sad, or they go angry. There's a Darth Vader bit in the show and whatnot. But that's the one consistent through line, is using robots to explore, and Quasi being the ambassador for those robots. The next show is Expedition Earth. So this will be blasting off a review of our blue marble. We're diving into a coral reef to learn about ocean acidification and efforts to try to curb that. We're soaring over mountains, and we're taking this global ecology adventure with Quasi. And our theme is that the more we observe from space, the better we can conserve our home planet. And the cadets in this show will be crew members aboard Spaceship Earth. So what we'd love to do is actually switch over. We have a jam board, and we'd love to do a little brainstorming with you all to think about what you would want to see in a show. Oh, we have one more slide. Sorry about that.
I surprised you with that one.
But what you'd want to see, what your students or visitors might need. The content in this show is ecosystems and climate change. That's the core of what this show is about, and how we can use the planetarium to teach climate change concepts. Some of the processes we'll be engaging students in will be observing the same things from an Earth level, from a ground level, and also being out in space. So comparing data that scientists collect on the ground with what satellites are teaching us. And also, again, robots as tools. And the overarching concepts here that, again, we want to observe in order to conserve, and that we're building this theory of climate change as we go. That we're collecting evidence from different places, and then we kind of reveal the theory of climate change being built on data from around the world.
All right, before we go to the Jamboards, I saw one question that you haven't answered yet. I think it'll be an easy one. So for props like the scale models of the planets, do you provide information about sourcing those?
We do, yeah, we will. So
okay, cool.
We'll have content guides as well. So anything that we do here will provide information on how you can recreate it in your own facility.
Cool.
So we would love to hear what you would love to do in a show about exploring the Earth for elementary students and also the general public. But imagining first that you're a ranger for an interplanetary park service. And we're gonna head on over to the Jamboard now. We've got the link in the chat. But imagine now that you're leading the tour, you're the ranger for the park service, Quasi is your sidekick, and you're captaining your planetarium, your USS Eco Prize, as it were, on an orbital tour of the greatest places around the world. So our first question really is, where would you want to go in the dome? And we have a couple leaders up here. One is purely awesome places you'd want to go to on a global scale in your dome, but also thinking about, is there cool stuff in your neck of the woods that you want to highlight that's specific to your region and where you'd like to live? I'm glad you brought the seat out in case I could get back early and join you.
Yeah, yeah. Again, you missed that whole fun beginning part. You totally weren't here for it. Such a shame.
Did you know that China makes large panda-shaped solar farms. That's really cool. That sounds like a neat see from space too.
It does.
The Monterey Bay Marine Sanctuary.
Yellowstone, very cool. Bermuda Triangle.
Highlands of Scotland, Inuit communities.
Himalayas. Oh my gosh, there's so many. This is wonderful.
I love the Arc of Appalachia. That's, I think,
Yes.
nice for us and something we'd like to include. And I see the location of a famous scientist or astronomer that we're discussing. That's a very nice touch too, to make it personal. Associate a scientist with each biome that we're going into. So take a couple more minutes to kind of, a couple more seconds to create the wish list, and then we'll move on to the next phase of our jam. So there are so many here. This is awesome. I thought we might just call out a few specifically, and if anyone wanted to unmute and mention something, we'll take we'll take a beat here before we move on. I noticed Linnaeus home in Sweden and his gardens. That's a nice touch.
All right,
Quasi's
so
backstory.
let's move on to the second one. So our second board here.
So now we're moving from the idea of what we'd love to see to what you feel your audiences might need to see, which there could be a lot of overlap. But we're hopping around the world collecting puzzle pieces that will build evidence for climate change. So what evidence would you want to collect? And we have a couple leaders here. One could be what students really need to learn about. If there are any puzzle pieces in your neck of the woods, any local stories. And then also any space missions that might be important to helping us unlock this. If there are particular satellites.
Deforestation. Deforestation is a good one, and that's something that can easily be observed from space as well.
Coral reef bleaching. Yeah, we're definitely, that's a great point. We're definitely going to make sure to include that. We're going to do a full dome animation diving into the Great Barrier Reef, looking at that. And we're going to film a dry ice rainbow reaction, talking about acidification and then reversing that, the pH, and talking about efforts to seed hardy coral around the world and whatnot.
Lots of
fossil
these,
sites,
yeah.
It's great to bring in the ancient evidence, ice cores and fossils, and
these are excellent, guys. Tectonic plate lines, yes.
So I noticed animal migrations on here, and that's a great point. One story we're planning to tell is just in our own backyard with a local nature reserve, or bird migrations that have been tracked over the years, and how to look at that from a global perspective, doing animations of that, how climate change has affected that. If there are particular animals that migrate through your range, we'd love to hear about those. If those are climate stories that should be included. And human migration, that's a powerful statement as well.
All right, so take a couple more seconds if you have any other cool things to add, and then we can move on to the next one.
I'm seeing a lot of things that, and I hadn't thought about this before, is looking at time, like rewinding back in time, going forward in time with different predictions.
All right, so let's move on to number 3. So the third board here.
So the third one is how you could make your planetarium, how your planetarium, I should say, could make the science of climate change more clear, convincing, and understandable. So what do you think are the tough concepts, either in terms of people buying into them, or they're just hard to talk about? What are those tough concepts for you? And then how might you address them, either with a dome visualization or a science demo or some other kind of live audience engagement?
And again, if you want to talk about any one of these in particular, go ahead and raise your hand and we can have a discussion. Because there's definitely lots of different things here. We know in particular, climate can be one of the trickier topics to talk about in the planetarium, but also the planetarium is one of the best places to cover it. So our kind of goal with this show is going to be bringing that to, you know, audiences of all ages, even younger audiences, to understand, you know, you can be stewards for our home planet, and here are the changes that have happened, but here are the changes that can happen in the future as well. These are great.
Yeah. Time scale is a recurring comment. and natural change versus human change. Notice someone posted critical thinking skills, and I think
That's a big one.
We've been Zooming with some teachers, and that's been coming up too. That'll be a challenge for scripting, but I think a good one is how we can maybe get the students to think a little for themselves in some scenarios. And that's a good point too. Someone just put attendees might be expecting to be entertained. Who shared that? If you'd like to share out. But I think that's a good point. And how do we strike that balance? And do due diligence to this topic, but make sure they come away with their expectations, and not insulting anyone in the process too. That's a great point.
Definitely.
That kind of leads into our next question, which is all about, after your students experience Expedition Earth, what do you hope they'll do next? And that idea of being insulted kind of leads into this first question of feeling what when they leave the show. So what do you want your students to feel? And we definitely don't want them to feel insulted or overwhelmed
or hopeless or
we want them to come away with realistic knowledge, but also feeling or our hope would be that, but we'd like to know kind of what your hope.
That's very yes.
I love produce their own shows. That's a nice side goal if they be inspired to want to educate in the same way.
Able to make a difference. Yeah, I like all of these things that are giving them the power and understanding. What can I do? Yeah.
I think one of the reasons we want to make this
blame the boomers.
One of the reasons we want to make this a cookbook is because we're adding in our own version some local stories, but would want to give you the option if you'd be interested in the show that you could. There's a lot of optimism there. That you'd be able to keep adapting the show to keep it current, but to put your own original stories that tie to your own neighborhood into the global context.
These shows are obviously they're going to be designed to be modular, so you can put in your own local influences and anything that you have locally that pertains to these subjects. There will be plenty of room for that. So the nice thing is you can cook these up however you want. If you want to blame the boomers,
ask them or tell a friend or family one thing they learned today. That's nice.
All right.
Just quickly adding on to that, there's actually research showing that if students can tell one person, they're more likely to do an action if they've actually told that person what they're going to do. It's kind of accountability. And so that's one thing we've been trying to implement in all of our programming with climate change is that if we give them an action to do, one of the other steps is to tell a friend or tell a family member of that action and why you're doing it.
That's a great point. Yeah, helping them start discussions on their own about these kinds of things. I can see that definitely would have a huge impact. That's a great point to have that baked into a show.
I like the comment too about we're not trying to force anyone but having them to think a certain way, but having them open to learning and listening, and kind of meeting people where they are. Folks coming in with a wide range of preconceived notions, but if we're showing them data and kind of guiding them to think for themselves critically based on the data.
All right, so let's head over to number 5. Let's head over to our next one here, and we are going to switch gears here a little bit because we've talked so far about we've looked at the Earth, so we have our Expedition Earth show, and we're kind of reflecting back on our home planet. We've looked at our solar system, and what we're thinking for show number 3 is looking at other planets. and maybe the search for life on other planets. So we're going to take a minute here and think of what are some ways that life has adapted to live here on Earth, maybe ways that we've adapted for the air that exists here, or for the water, or for the gravity, or for the light levels. What are different ways that either human bodies or other animals or anything, any kind of life, single-celled organisms, how have they adapted to live here on Earth? Temperature regulation. Camouflage is a good one.
The development of the embryonic eggs meant eggs didn't have to be in water, and tracing the development of the egg over time would be interesting. That idea of life having worked its way into every niche.
24-hour daylight cycle. Yep, that's something specific that life has adapted to, maybe with nocturnal animals or planetarians who maybe are also nocturnal animals.
Making beer.
Making beer, very important adaptation for sure. Yeah, so
or root beer, depending on the age.
So one key concept we can think about is, you know, light, as we search for life on other planets, we're searching for life as we know it, right? And so these are kind of the different ways that we know life has adapted to here on Earth. So the next one is going to be really fun. So let us head over to the next slide. Ooh, vascular tissues and plants. Yes, tidal zones. Excellent. So keep all of these things in mind. Yeah. And let's head to the next slide. So you're going to visit a solar system with lots of different kinds of planets, and maybe it has a different kind of star. What features might these planets have? Do they look like the Earth? Do they look different? Are they covered in volcanoes? So what kind of planets do you think might be out there? And how do you think life might adapt to survive on those planets? So think about a planet that looks maybe nothing like Earth, and how might life adapt there? Methane lakes, yeah. Got that within our own solar system for sure. Eyes that can see different wavelengths. I wish that were me. Doesn't everyone just want to be a mantis shrimp sometimes? I know I do. Extreme heat, yes. Multiple stars in a system. Thicker, stronger bones. Yeah, so all of these different things would affect how life forms. Organisms that float in the atmosphere. Tidal locking. Yeah, oops, I keep moving the title. Synchronous rotation. That's a cool one to think about too.
I like Hoth, the big woolly mammoth dudes. You saw that one come up?
I missed that one.
We definitely have to do a woolly mammoth animation now.
Oh yes, there we go.
That is gone.
Big woolly mammoth dudes. Consider it done. Say no more.
Its production has begun.
Lots of little of gravity. Lots of or little gravity. Wow, that was hard to read for some reason. My brain is a little slow this morning.
A planet that's irradiated.
I'm seeing lots of life in the clouds, which is really cool to think about. Even in our own solar system, that might be a thing that we find on other worlds, but that is certainly kind of one of the more common things I'm seeing here. Hibernate.
This theme of extracting energy from basic chemistry, seeing the methane lakes and the raining metals and the diamond planet, and putting together this idea of analyzing what's in the chemical cupboard of each world and what we can make from it.
Yeah, so this is kind of just a fun thinking activity too, and this is what I love to do with summer campers also. What we couldn't do in person was give you all paper bags and build a puppet and it and then design an alien that would live on those planets. But just thinking of how we are searching for life as we know it, but life might show up in a completely different way that we don't know what to expect. And so kind of what are the different things that we might look for if it isn't carbon-based, if it doesn't need liquid water to survive, what does it live off of? So all of these are awesome.
Yeah.
Rogue planets, yes.
The planets that were scoured of life and reseeded by their moons. That's fascinating.
Yeah.
Planets in a binary star system. Does it ever get dark? There's some great places to visit. The Horta, of course. We just have the planetarium staff member in a red shirt and replace them every
Oh,
week. We have
no.
a new posting up.
Oh no, wait a second. Our uniforms are red.
They are.
Hold on a minute. Now I'm feeling very worried about my work uniform. All right, so we are going to head over to the next, how are we on time? Oh, we're great. So we're gonna head over to the next board here and take a look at yourself. We're going to introspect here because we are experiencing these shows and we're experiencing this old.
Nice.
So how might you feel visiting a planet in another solar system? What kind of emotions might you feel if you're traveling to another place, maybe for the first time? Maybe you're the first person to visit these places. Maybe these are things you've never seen before. How might you feel, exploring a desert planet? Or maybe how would you feel watching a sunset on an ice world? So think of all these emotions that might be going through you as you are being this brave explorer in an exoplanet system.
Desecrational, that's an interesting one.
Wow, that's a good Scrabble word.
Treading on an unspoiled land.
That's very specific too. Yeah, that's a very specific feeling.
Claustrophobic.
Invasive. That's a good one too.
Worried about pets left behind. It's nice to hear all these everyday human emotions that would go into that journey.
Obsessed with survival. Awestruck. Awesome. These are great. So take a few more seconds here. Put yourself in that spaceship, exploring maybe the TRAPPIST-1 system. Curious.
Hypervigilance.
Love that.
Fish out of water.
Oh my gosh, I love Jamboard so much. I love your brains. This is wonderful. So can I do laundry? Yeah, you know what? That's an important thought.
The Star Wars music when Luke watches the double sunset. Me too.
We can maybe find a royalty-free version. All right, so these are lots of emotions that we are processing here. And that's great. So let's head to the next one, which I think is the last one. Yes. So let's head to our next one here. What do you think students should learn from a show about exoplanets? And what do you think they might want to learn? So what kind of lessons, what takeaways should students get when they are visiting these other solar systems and when they're learning about these other worlds that might be very different from Earth or very similar to Earth?
How we find exoplanets, it's a great point to make sure we hit the process.
How common they are, yes. We may not be alone, absolutely.
Zero to many thousands of known exoplanets, telling that story of exponential discovery. Earth isn't naturally suited to life. Things can be different. That's an interesting concept to jam on.
Why are we looking for them? Oops. Sorry, I keep moving these at the same time as everyone else.
Preservation of our own planet. That's a great point too, touching on everywhere we visit, and that there could be some other kind of life, but
kind of looking back and seeing how special and unique the Earth actually is. Life is special. Fascination for how life evolved here. I do like thinking about, that's kind of what it all comes down to, right? Is looking back and seeing what we have here on Earth and how life formed here on Earth. And what we're looking for out there is all of everything is shaped by what we see here and what we experience here.
Earth isn't perfect for us. We're adapted for Earth.
Good planets are hard to find. For sure. Ooh, controversial one here. Why Pluto is an exoplanet?
Could be show number 4.
Pluto needs its own show. Yeah. Kepler was the bestest mission. Love Kepler. Vastness of the universe. Yeah, giving that kind of perspective on how much is out there.
A fascination for how life evolved here. That's really exciting. Traveling to exoplanets and maybe just reading it, coming back to Earth at a different stage in its history and revealing that we found Earth and seeing that evolution and fast forward maybe.
Definitely. So this is our final kind of slide, and we can totally open it up if anyone has any questions or anything that you might want to add to today. These different shows are all going to have kind of their different vibes, and we want to make sure that they include things that everyone wants or needs in their domes, and have content that you can use. And again, you can use this stuff for anything. This is all going to be, freely available, and you can do whatever you want with it. So you can completely ignore our scripts and whatever if you want, and just use the pieces however you see fit, which is the nice thing about having these recipes. I realized we probably should have made it more food themed than we did, because when we were applying for this grant, we leaned heavily on the.
We were hungry when we applied for the grant.
So we didn't use as many food
There.
puns, but we are providing the ingredients, and you can follow the recipe or create your own. And if you have a Digistar system, we have a Digistar system here in the Buhl Planetarium. So I'll be putting my version of the show up on the cloud eventually, so you can actually get straight up the version that we have here. And don't judge my scripting because I don't know what I'm doing fully yet. But so if my code is a mess,
Very good. It's
if
awesome.
my code is a mess, don't judge me too hard. I'm trying, but that will go up on the cloud eventually. I'm gonna see. My goal is to get the full dome clips up on the dome the cloud as well. So, but if you don't have Digistar, you'll still be able to get all of the ingredients and do with them what you will. Does anyone have, I'm gonna stop my share here. Does anyone have any, I'm gonna check in how to get this. So we will be, over the next couple months, we will be distributing all of the information. We'll have a link that you can follow. So everything will be online and you can download it for yourself.
Yeah.
And we'll make sure I'll post that everywhere.
And we'll have in mid-November, at our Carnegie Science Center homepage of the planetarium, our resource page is currently being revamped.
Yes.
So there will be a link there to some of the assets and also how to contact us to get the whole.
So it will be on the
show.
it's carnegiesciencecenter.org, which I should type in the chat because there's a lot of C's and E's in there.
Yeah.
Wow, all cap. carnegiesciencecenter.org.
And we'll send out this announcement,
Yeah,
like you said, because there will be a page that doesn't exist at the website just yet, but in November, the Buhl page will look very different, and this will be very easy to find. So.
Oh, thanks, Andy.
Charissa, how difficult was it to build Quasi? Is it like do you need to be a graduate student at Carnegie Mellon to be able to do it, or was it pretty easy?
So Quasi's origin story. So we did not. Thank you. First of all, I'm flattered that you think that we built Quasi. Not built Quasi. Quasi's origin story actually started outside of the planetarium. So he was part of one of our traveling van shows that we have at the Science Center, and Mike can probably speak more to that. But
Sure. So he was designed by grad students at the Entertainment Technology Center, CMU, and this is sort of his second career with us. He was originally built to travel in a van, and we actually took him into schools and set him up for a school assembly with a robotic arm.
What I don't think we actually talked about was that Quasi is basically an animatronic puppet. So yeah, we were joking that Mike wasn't here. I don't know if you picked up on it or not. Mike was Quasi.
Don't tell him. No.
Let's peer behind the curtain. Mike was Quasi. So there's actually behind this wall, we have a little room where some of our equipment sits, but also there's a touchscreen computer, and we can have a presenter sit back there. They wear a headset. Their voice goes through a voice modulator. Quasi has a camera in his nose and a microphone out here. So Quasi can actually hear what the audience is saying and see if they're talking to him in front of him and interact. So Quasi is like a pure interaction that audiences love. We always have kids stay after shows to talk with Quasi. Just a few weeks ago, I had a lady who was full on Turing testing me, thought that I was an AI and kept asking me like, she was grilling me on all of the space trivia, and I had to like think really hard. And I had her going for a solid 5 minutes, and then eventually our presenter was like, no, there's a person. There's a real person back there. But it adds such a level of interaction that we get to do, and so much fun.
So for the distribution version, what we're doing with Quasi, we filmed them in a number of really small clips. So you could, again, take their whole script and put it in and play everything front to back, or just cut lines or move lines around or what have you. So there's if you want a dialogue with the captain.
So Quasi can still be part of your show and still have all of that dialogue that we have written into the script. You can also have a second presenter say those lines if you want and ignore Quasi altogether. We had Quasi as part of Expedition Solar System mainly because that show is themed to, the original idea was, let's have Quasi introduce us to his robot friends around the solar system. So we go to these different planets and visit different robotic missions that have been there. So that's why we said, hi, LRO, hi, SGO, and we go to all these different places and talk to all these robots, even post-mortem Cassini. So that's always a fun one too. We just kind of gloss right by that one, but there are lots of fun opportunities for Quasi. So we're going to make sure to keep Quasi in the other shows as well, and distributing those videos so anyone can integrate Quasi into your show.
So that means any documentation for recreating Quasi is gone, right? If it's that old.
So that's a good question. I mean, we could put you in touch if you're interested with the team that built Quasi. If you'd be interested in talking directly with them, we could make that introduction. So there are, I believe, 2 iterations of Quasi in existence right now. So there's one at our planetarium, there's one on CMU's campus, and then Quasi has a sibling named Moxie in Singapore. So
yeah, I mean, even if it's gobbledygook and very technical, somebody out there could use it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a complicated system here. They're just a bunch of servos basically hooked up to a puppet. So
and what's exciting is that everything's exposed to the audience, and there's still the buy-in. Yeah, which is great. So
one of my favorite anecdotes, Mike has heard me tell the story a million times. We took Quasi to be on our local news station one morning to kind of introduce the show to Pittsburgh, and so Quasi used to travel, right? So he has just a cord, like an umbilical with all his cables, and there's a computer at the other end. It's about 20 feet long. It's not super long, but I was going to be on camera talking to Quasi, and Mike was off camera with the headset on. And we had, before our segment, all of the news anchors were coming up to us, and they could see Mike clearly standing there like 15 feet away and hear his voice, but they were talking to Quasi as if he was a real thing and fully engaging in conversation. And the buy-in was so instant. I'm like, Mike is right there. Like, there's no secret here, but people just fall in for it. It's awesome.
Yeah, the reason I ask about the documentation is that there's a lot of really talented makers out there who could make sense of technical documentation. So JPL, for example, we built our own outreach rover, and that was a student project as well. And we were like, it's great, so let's just put it up online. And so we did. And now there's a whole community of people who build their own rovers.
That is awesome. Yeah, I mean, this pretty much was a student project, right?
Right.
So that's how it all started.
Right. It was kind of a prototype because of that idea of the antennas being based on how a dog's ears might move to indicate sadness or happiness or anger. And then their next step after that was a plushed kind of scale piece that would sit on a desktop. Its name was Popchilla. It was a plush critter, but with the same antennas. And it didn't talk, but it was just an emotive desk piece. So.
Yes, I don't know if there's a pronunciation for this acronym, but I like to say Nyoki for information on how to teach climate change.
And it's back to our cookbook theme. So.
And then it fits with the cookbook. Amazing. Yes, that is an excellent.
Thank you. Yeah.
That is an excellent resource. Yeah, someone could build just make a puppet. You can make a plush puppet and have Quasi. It's just kind of having that entity there as your extra, partner in crime to talk about stuff there.
Yeah,
It's a nice.
the link I put on there too. And so it's a friend of mine who's a master puppeteer here in Seattle. And the link on his that I put up there actually has coincidentally a robot right on the front page.
Oh.
So he does amazing work.
Whoa, those are awesome.
Those are so cool.
Aren't those cool? Yeah.
Oh my gosh, and audiences would eat that up.
Totally.
I love the one in the top center. It looks like a robo ET.
I feel like
exactly. Yeah,
like
he's actually got a show coming up. He's working on Heather Henson, Jim Henson's daughter, is doing a movie series on Amazon Prime, and so one of the ones next year will be featuring Rob and some of his characters. He's when I say puppet, he's a master. You can see
that. I see the Henson influence clearly. Yeah, that's awesome.
And you bring up a great point, because I think you could do videos, use the videos of Quasi, or take the lines that we have for sort of a cute sidekick, but adapt them into your own character.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can.
Oh, hi, everybody. Kayla, come on in.
Hello. She's off screen, but there she is.
I didn't know that, Julie. That's great. What a coincidence.
Yeah, those are awesome. Why am I using the trackpad when I have the mouse right here? Yeah. It's Jim Henson's birthday today. I did not know that either. That's awesome. Wow, how appropriate. We do a puppet themed. Doesn't I don't know. It's a little
absolutely
bit of a stretch,
his kids are doing a Twitter thing today, actually.
Oh, I'll have to check that out. Oh, Quasi's gonna go to sleep for real, but he's gonna say goodbye one more time. I think.
Bye bye, Quasi.
They say goodbye, Quasi.
I slept through the whole show. I'm still getting paid in full, right?
Quasi, you don't get paid at all.
I heard you talking about food. Am I getting some snacks?
Quasi, you don't eat.
Maybe a can of WD-40.
Oh, we can manage that. Your jaw looks a little stiff today. So.
Hey, Captain, do you want to do our Darth Vader impression?
Do we have a choice?
No. You can all mute and walk away if you don't want to hear this. Here we go. It's a little scary. Captain, come to the dark side. We have cookies.
Very
Did I just end lips? Did everybody walk away?
Everyone is gone. Everyone is actually on the floor crying.
Oh no.
They're so scared.
Oh no. I'm sorry. That makes me sad. But it was awesome to meet you all. Have a great rest of your day.
Bye, Quasi.
Where do we land on that snack? Nowhere. Okay.
No.
Hey, it was wonderful meeting you all. I hope you have a wonderful day and keep looking up, everybody. Bye.
Bye, Quasi.
We can use Quasi. Yeah, we want to use Quasi in any things we can. We actually did a promo wedding shoot once with Quasi as the officiant. So my dream is someday to officiate a wedding as Quasi. It hasn't happened yet, but I'm trying to manifest that into the universe. So maybe someday.